Okay. It is always interesting to start. So welcome to the Paradox of Eternal Life. I'm happy that you're here. And when I say it's like interesting to start, because it is like a continuing flow that we're in. So it's like, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. So here it is, here it is, here it is. And it seems like we're starting something again. Like, nah, that's not true at all. So we continue. And, oh, yeah, always welcome. Always welcome. So we continue. And, but it's also brand new. So that's really like a paradox, right? It's really a paradox. We begin something brand new and we continue. It doesn't even, no, it doesn't work. But anyway, so this is the paradox of eternal life. And there's no paradox in eternal life, but the way we look at it is seeing that coming to know eternal life, you encounter a lot of paradoxes. And it's good to take a look at them, because if you don't see them, say if you don't get them, so to speak, it is like you stay stuck in certain things that which is not necessary. So in that sense, it is a real spiritual healing class, where we go deep into the exact of the words and word, and use any kind of useful tool for that. And when I say that, so useful tools, so one of the useful tools we're using today is a book called The Paradox of Eternal Life of Master Teacher. That's one book that we use. The other one is The Phenomenon of Man by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. I'm not pronouncing it right, I know that, I forgot. And then there's the New Testament, and there's A Course in Miracles. So these four combined, say, deliver so much beautiful input. It's unbelievable. Even nature comes in too. I have some expressions. And human law comes in. Justice. The Justice Department is our visitor today. And so that's really interesting. It's really interesting because you see paradoxical expressions everywhere, and especially in awakening, since everything is in your human mind is turned 180 degrees upside down, you see that there must be a paradox in there somewhere in many of the things. And it's not just like a hobby of us to look at the paradoxes, so it definitely has a function. And like I said, the recognition to look through the paradox into, say, what lies beyond is really like why we're here, why we're actually doing this. And the way that that's being done is like that material that is offered to us, and that we're actually able to hear, that we're actually able to hear at this point in the awakening or in time or whatever, whoever you want to call it. Like the fact that you're able to hear it is amazing, because there's so much beauty in that what is being shared. There's so much beauty that I don't know what to do with myself. That's why I do these courses in the first place, because there's no way I can contain myself. And I seriously mean that. It's like the beauty of it is so amazing that it's even hard to look at it, to not be completely overwhelmed with it immediately. So this is the kind of material, if you want, we work with, or we can take a look at, just catch a glimpse of it. So that is the beginning of that. That is just a little thing that we start to do. Just a little peak would be overwhelming. That's how beautiful it is. And so in the start of this, using one of the say a bit of text, like a contemplative text of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Yeah, I really don't pronounce this right. I know that. I can hear it from like a French echo or something that it's not right. I'm sorry for that. I can't help it. I can help it. I can learn, but it will
Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
use the name so much, and it's such a good feeling to pronounce his name this way. So I'll keep it with this for now. But the prayer, contemplative prayer that I'm sharing with you is coming from the book Phenomenon of Man. I say distracted, or yeah, distilled some sentences out of the text to have a compact, all-encompassing piece of text that is, to me, like absolutely beautiful. So you hear when I say these words, like when I start to read this, you will hear this in a different way. It's like, yeah, it's not like you read a book or anything. It's more like you really have to let this come to you and let it unfold in you so that you get the best, say, out of it. There's incredible, beautiful light available when you hear this. So, I think I made you sufficiently, say, receptive now. So are you ready for this? I'm going to share a screen with you where I made the... Like I said, you listen to this in a different way. I cannot say it any other way. It's like, yeah, you got to get into this a little bit. Love. 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 You know, this is where it starts. Love. So it's one of the chapters at the end of the book. Love. The affinity of being with being. It embraces all form in its varieties and degrees. All the forms successively adopted by organized matter. Recognizing it in ourselves, we assume its presence in everything. That is, if we look around us at a confluent ascent of consciousnesses, we see it is not lacking anywhere. Whether as a force or a curvature, the universal gravity of bodies, so striking to us, is merely the reverse or shadow of that which really moves nature. To perceive cosmic energy at the font, we must, if there is a within of things, go down into the internal or radial zone of spiritual attraction. A universal love is not only psychologically possible, it is the only complete and final way in which we are able to love. I love this. So I'll repeat it once more. It's so great. I cannot tell you. Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you. The affinity of being with being. It embraces all form in its varieties and degrees. All the forms successively adopted by organized matter. Recognizing it in ourselves, we assume its presence in everything that is. If we look around us at the confluent ascent of consciousnesses, we see it is not lacking anywhere. Whether as a force or a curvature, the universal gravity of bodies, so striking to us, is merely the reverse or shadow of that which really moves nature. To perceive cosmic energy at the font, we must, if there is a within of things, go down into the internal or radial zone of spiritual attraction. A universal love is not only psychologically possible, but it is the only complete and final way in which we are able to love. So let's be still with that for a moment. Love, the affinity of being with being. It embraces all form in its varieties and degrees, all the forms successively adopted by organized matter. Recognizing it in ourselves, we assume its presence is in everything that is. If we look around at the confluent ascent of consciousnesses, we see it is not lacking anywhere. Whether there is a force or a curvature, the universal gravity of bodies, so striking to us, is merely the reverse or shadow of that which really moves nature. To perceive cosmic energy at the font, we must, if there is a within of things, go down into the internal or radial zone of spiritual attraction. A universal love is not only psychologically possible, it is the only complete and final way in which we are able to love. Love, the affinity of being with being. It embraces all form in its varieties and degrees, and all the forms successively adopted by organized matter. Recognizing it in ourselves, we assume its presence in everything that is. If we look around us at the confluent ascent of consciousnesses. We see it is not lacking anywhere. Whether it's a force or a curvature, the universal gravity of bodies, so striking to us, is merely the reverse or shadow of that which really moves nature. To perceive cosmic energy at the font, we must, if there is a within of things, go down into the internal or radial zone of spiritual attraction. A universal love is not only psychologically possible, it is the only complete and final way in which we are able to love. Well, I hope you enjoyed the words of Teilhard too, and the experience that you have with it. See, the amazing thing to me is that when your ears start to open, that you actually start to hear what it says. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you exactly know all, or you could explain it or anything, but you get it. You get what it says. So in this way of listening, and this way of being present is a real step forward in our awakening. It's like it can be the same that you actually already know what I'm starting to say. We come to that later. It's like you already know what I'm going to say. You can feel it coming in a certain sense, like you already received it before it wasn't even communicated. Something like this. So I have that when I read this too. It's like you might have that too. It's like you read this, and then actually it tells you something that you recognize, and also you see where the beauty, where it comes from, like that is being revealed to you in the moment that you hear it. And it's great. So the book Phenomena of Man is really kind of like readable. It is. He was a paleontologist, so he was doing science, and he was a pastor too. He was a pastor, a Roman Catholic pastor, but he evolved like in his illumination. In fact, he evolved in a way that he started to see right through the Catholic system as well as the scientific system. And in both accounts, they excommunicated him. So that's another paradox. You say the truth, and suddenly you're being excommunicated. That's a huge paradox. Like, wouldn't everyone doesn't not everyone want to wake up out of this dream of limitation, disease, and all that? Apparently not. But so you can definitely, something happens to you when you recognize that something that's shared with you is the truth. And that can have two responses, of course. Like one is of acceptance, and the other one of a denial. But you got to do something with it. It will not just float away or something. It's like, no, you actively resist it, or you're going to accept it. It's a bit like that. But when you're open, look at what is being presented, and continuously, like, you can't believe it. And it's expanding in itself. I think Teilhard used the word involution. I love that. It's like it's an involution in which you're going to ascend your consciousness in a confluent, with fluency, like a fluent ascent of the consciousness. I love the way that's described, and I love to feel what is being shared. So that's why I couldn't resist sharing it with you, because it's like this. Like, I get excited about reading certain books and really diving into a talk of master teacher to actually try to express what I'm hearing in it, to share it with you. So it's like that is what I've been doing, say, today too, in preparing this moment together. And then once that starts, it's like you see the mind continues to bring in more. It's like it's a continuous flow of here's more. Oh, you like that? Here's more. Here's more. Here's more. Here's more. Like, so that's why I decided in this class to keep it very simple and down to earth, and actually with some humor too this time, and which is fun. It's just fun to see what your mind does, how it works, and how it is blind, certain sense, blind to the paradoxes that are presenting themselves, just because you're not like staying right here and listening to it. So that's why in this class I really need your attention. I really need you to be here in this meeting. I say class, but I'm not learning you anything. It's more like you start to recognize things that you already know. So this remembering is really what this is about, and that's so much fun if that occurs. And then it makes total sense. So you discover it makes total sense. Yes, of course I know this. In fact, I recognize what you say. So these things you're going to tell me. I know that. So that's wonderful. So what else needs to be said before we continue this? I'm just going to get started and see what this holds up. So basically the thing that came to me is that I want to try to keep this like light, in a sense, like light, not difficult or heavy or anything. So I also want to make it easy for myself in this, and that's why it is a spontaneous class. Like what I'm sharing with you, even though I prepare it, is still spontaneous, and I want you to deal with this meeting also like that. So it's like you have a full part in this, is what I'm actually sharing. It's like you have a full part in this, and the same way you can receive this too. So don't make it heavy or difficult for yourself. No, it's like whatever is talking to you is great. What you don't get, it's all right. So you can look afterwards to the PDF or sheets that I made. That's fine, of course. Or start reading a chapter from the book of say the Phenomena of Man of Teilhard or whatever. Like, yeah, if I can help you in any way, I have the PDF of the book. You can read it easily. So it's more like this is your journey, is what I'm saying. It's like it's such an individual process. It's such an individual thing that's going on. If you think like, oh God, it's too much information for me, I just need to sit back and relax and be in light, be my guest, absolutely. Like there's no better way for you to be present than the way that you can and that you feel is right for you in this moment. Of course this is always so, but sometimes I mention it, and that's why I do it now. So it's more like the lightness of the recognition is where the fun is. Yeah, so the things that you can catch with your tentacles or antennas that resonate, the antennas with you, in you, is great, is for you. That what is not, is fine. Sorry for that. So here's consideration. So is it all friendly what I'm sharing? I don't know. I don't know how you're going to take this. We're talking here about master teacher sharing something with us. So human assumption of exclusion. So there are just some terms that are being shared. Can there be a universe without you? So let's stay with these two. Human assumption of exclusion. Like I put a picture here of the universe, like they made a starscape picture, and science is really doing that. You know, they go into what appears to be the universe and they take pictures of it and assume that it's the universe they think it is. And whether there's a human relationship to all that or not, no, well, that doesn't matter. Like, so it's like, so physics, we're observing a universe, you know, like big telescopes and all this stuff. Big telescopes and discovering more satellites and rockets and spaceships going deeply into space, discovering something. So like it can even think that if the human race would be extinct, that the universe would continue to go on, you know. Like I remember as a child I had those thoughts too. It's like you could think like there's a universe out there, which there's no human anymore left. They're all gone, and there's still a universe. Well, you think that that's a possibility. That's an interesting idea. So, is there a universe without you? Is then the question. How could there be a universe without you? And that's not like a romantic phrase I'm posing to you. It's like, oh, there's no universe without you. Like, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is this. It's like looking in your consciousness. Can there be a universe without you? And you saw the third line in the sheet is like projection makes perception. Like the whole idea of thinking that this is all say objective, that it's all parts, you know, in this gigantic universe, all parts, stars up there, another galaxy, billions of galaxies and all that. And you think it has nothing to do with you because, yeah, it's so far away and so big, and that's it. So the great discovery then is that in coming into this physical form, it's like you literally took the whole world with you. You took everything with you. Like there's no universe without you because you're literally all of it. Teilhard said it too. It's like an all-inclusive. Every form, everything, every object is part of that, because it's not an object. It appears to be an object, and it appears to be a world, and it appears to be the universe that we think it is. Like all that is not what it is or what it appears to be. And that's a big of a huge statement here. I know. So there cannot be a universe without you, because you're literally the self that is ruling the universe. You're literally at the center of it. Not as you know yourself, but as you are. So that is a paradox, right? So you can feel that paradox as like, well, that's a huge shift. Now I have to think about myself in a totally different way. How I cannot understand the fact that myself is ruling the universe. I cannot see myself at the center of a universe. I cannot see that. Okay, we're gonna continue, just as if we didn't hear it, but we did hear it. All of the apparent, so this is about our path. All of the apparent instructional modalities of intervention, all of the apparent instructional modalities of intervention, like all the methods that we use in our awakening too, will appear to both verify and justify your meaningless conditional self-consciousness. What does this mean? So what does this mean? It's like you in your awakening even, you try to use everything to set everything in your say conditional self-consciousness, like your idea about yourself. You try to translate everything into the way that you think that you are. And that's a pretty amazing that is the case. Like in that sense, you could say like any modality or any method that we use is not going to do it. It's not going to work. And at the same time, we're doing one. We're doing the Infinite Way, we're doing A Course in Miracles, we're doing whatever we are doing. Like you use a path, you use a direction, you use a way of doing it. And at the same time, within your existence as you know yourself, so you use everything in your experience of yourself as you know yourself. You give it a place in that. Of course, up to the moment that you don't, that you shift into a different, say, ascent into a lifted consciousness, then that all falls into place and makes total sense. But that lifted state of consciousness didn't need the method. You know what I mean? So this is a paradox then. You do a path. We're doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles, a daily lesson. No. And you do it within your own self-concept of yourself. Of course, with the goal of transcending out of it, or being reborn into a new consciousness. But the new consciousness in which you are going to be born, so to speak, doesn't need that. I love that. I love that. So you can say like every method is false. Every method that you use to wake up out of this, say, dream is false. That is in the end not going to do it. And you think it will. And that's why you do it. As soon as you're out of it, you see, no, I didn't need that. Wow, that's amazing. I'm just recognizing myself. I'm just recognizing who I truly am. I don't need anything for that. Now, talking about a paradox, that's a huge one, right? And you're in the middle of one. This is shifting back and forth from one to the other, thinking that you're in a different state, doing your exercises or your meditation, all this, shifting into a lifted, elevated state of consciousness, seeing that you didn't need it. Well, I have a lot of fun thinking about this stuff. I love it. So in this part that really wants to practice and do the lessons well, which is great, you should really do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You see, it's like this one that is doing that and really wants to do it with its motivation and its achieved goal is a liar, because he's in fact not doing it at all. He's not, like, you're a liar from the beginning. First you lie, in fact, by thinking this world is real and doing everything you can to protect it. Then in your awakening, you're doing something to get out of it. When you're out of it, you see that none of it was real. Oh, I love it. Can you feel that? Like, I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great. Like, oh, thank you, Master Teacher, for bringing that in. You know, he just gives that to you. He just say, I'm just sharing this with you, what I discover myself over and over. I'm just discovering. I'm sharing my discovery. Share it with you in one experience, really. It's like, this makes total sense, doesn't it? That's so great. It's like it makes total sense. As you hear it, it makes total sense. If you don't want to hear it, you say like, nah, the hell with it. I don't believe it's true. You're just messing with my mind. I was like, yes, I definitely mess with your mind. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like with the part, especially the part that is the liar, that isn't at no single moment true at all. And you identify with it and protect it as if it is your sweet little baby. And it is not. Your sweet little baby has nothing to do with this. So that's awesome. So that was just the first page. Next. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Oh, I might get too excited. So let me see it go. Oh, this is so nice too. Oh my God, I love this. Yeah. Can you imagine how much fun I have when I prepare this? It's like, oh, this is so great. So you see the hammer. So it's not too clear, not too high resolution, but it's a hammer. It's judgment. So now you can say, like in our teaching, like all judgment is false. And then it's like, yeah, but that's actually a form of judgment. So is that false too then? No, this statement is true. All judgment is false. Well, if all judgment is false, that must mean then that there's also a true judgment. Otherwise there wouldn't be only false judgment. So it's a form of judgment. All right, so there are more of those coming. So this is just warming up. So here's our Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was judged by the religious and science authorities because he demonstrated the necessity to undergo an evolutionary revelation to come to Christ mind. And you say like, well, why, what was that so bad? Like, he was judged by the religious and science authorities because he demonstrated the necessity to undergo an evolutionary revelation to come to Christ mind. He shows an example of the possibility of God communication and was excommunicated. That was a paradox of judgments. Like Pierre Teilhard received all this information, right? He was a researcher, he was a pastor, he had God experiences, he had like a direct communication with God. His mind was enlightened, like it was illumined. His mind was illumined. His mind is illumined. So he says you need to undergo an evolutionary revelation. And it's like man cannot think himself out of his own situation. So say that in the Catholic Church. Like, no, we have an idea about this, and this is what we protect. You come every Sunday to church, you do these prayers, and when you die, you will come into heaven. That was the story. So he came with a whole different story in the sense that awakening from this dream by an say evolutionary revelation, like by a change and shift in consciousness, is how this can come to you. So that is a huge paradox. So science didn't like him, and the religious establishment didn't like him at all, because he took away their power. He actually showed them, what you are doing here in this church, in this science, has no meaning whatsoever in reality. So that is, you don't want to hear that. That's why I said, like, if the truth is spoken to you, two things can happen. And one is then you say, like, I'm so happy to hear this. Or the other one is, that's total nonsense. It's like, none of that is true. I cannot accept that. It's crazy. It's insane. Well, you probably have experiences with that too, when you, in your full enthusiasm, shared with someone what you have experienced, and see that it wasn't accepted, but more like, are you all right? Is everything okay with you? Are you doing fine, or what's going on? Do we need to bring you to an asylum, or what is going on? Yeah, of course, I speak from experience, absolutely, from my own experience. So it is that, and it's, in order to hear this, in order to allow this to come to you, you have to say, let go of your idea about who you think you are, and connect it to every aspect of the world that you believe has reality. That's why it's quite, say, transformational. It's turning everything upside down. Okay, so this is also a nice one. So you see a picture here of red-eye tadpole. So it didn't turn into a frog yet. It is a tadpole. It's even in an egg still. So it is not even a tadpole yet. So it's like this little froggy fish that swim around with a little tail. So this one is still in the egg even. It's a red-eye frog egg. And here's the question, like, did you ever see a tadpole turn into a frog? No, that's impossible. Like, you will not see that. You will not see this egg turning into a tadpole, or a tadpole turn into a frog. You will not see that. Or a caterpillar into a butterfly. Like, you will not see that. You cannot determine when growth occurs. Okay, so I'm getting myself out of this, otherwise you already read the sheet, and that's not what I want. That's not what I want. So it's like you cannot see growth. Well, that's really great. So you know it from yourself too. When you were a little kid and you were measuring yourself, like close to the door, you had a pole where you could do that and make a line with a pencil. It's like, oh, I'm 1 meter, whatever, 20. I grew 5 centimeters, or whatever whatever that was for you. It's like, no, you actually could not see yourself grow. You cannot see yourself grow, like physically not, but mentally also not, and also not spiritually. You cannot see yourself grow, and there's a real fundamental paradox connected to it, or idea connected to it. So it's like the actual change, the actual growth of the child, even though you see him every day, will not be visible to you, right? So it makes sense. It makes sense. Why is that? Because you have literally nothing to compare it with. The past is over, the future is not yet. So the only thing that you're actually perceiving is this moment. And that is true in the physical growth too. So to see a tadpole turning into a frog would be impossible. Like it is something that you just cannot see. It's too much in the moment for you to perceive it. Like you cannot perceive it because you can only see what is now. And that's really true. So that's with your own growth, physically, mentally, but also spiritually. That's why it doesn't make sense to evaluate. Because what do you evaluate when you look at your own spiritual growth? How do you measure that? How do you know where you stand with that? It would be based on a comparison. But the comparison doesn't make sense because the past is gone. That is the paradox. You know, it's like you have nothing to compare it with. That's why it makes no sense to do it. That's why I also say, like, well, you cannot you cannot really see yourself in the timeline because the timeline doesn't exist. So that is, except for a huge paradox, also a great insight to deal with your spiritual growth, because you don't have to be concerned with it. It is where it is. It cannot be anywhere else. So that's something that I give as instruction to if you want to come to the acceptance of yourself in your spirituality, you might as well accept where you find yourself now, because there is nothing else. So if you accept this totally, you would be like coming to the fulfillment of it. See, it is pretty mysterious if I talk like this. I don't know. So I hope it makes sense to you too. You cannot determine when growth occurs. The past is over, truth not yet. And in the Course in Miracles, Jesus says, it's a holy instant of singular truth. This is the only thing that's occurring, like a holy instant of singular truth. Your awakening, a quantum leap to perfect singular reality. At no single moment is the expression. At no single moment can you determine a change from one aspect to another. At no single moment can you determine a change from one aspect to another. So that's one way of expressing that. This is great because, in fact, this suddenly turned into a quantum class. You know, it turns into a quantum class because if you hear this, what I'm sharing with you, you're suddenly shift into a different, say, elevated state of consciousness. It takes you out of this. You know, it's like it takes you out of your old ideas about yourself, because they absolutely have no existence anymore when you realize who you truly are. So this is the quantum leap that we're talking about. So at no single moment can you see the change from one state to the other. And that is so great to have that as like, oh yeah, let's not forget that as a memory. Like, that is so great, because once you have a moment of, say, enlightenment, of light in your, when you shift into a different state of consciousness, it's all there is. It's like your singular moment of eternal life. It's like you suddenly, that is all there is. Finding yourself back here, wherever here is, like finding yourself back here, there's no way that you can go somewhere else. No, you're completely here. You cannot think your way out of it either. So this is really paradoxical, of course, like in a true sense. Like it's really paradoxical, because the thing that you try to do in your spiritual path, at least I recognize that, is like trying to connect the two with one another, like trying to use your method so that you can talk yourself into another state of mind, another like revelatory state of mind, or an evolutionary revelation, as we heard a moment ago. Like you think that you can do that. That's why really trying to do that in your spiritual exercises. Well, that's never going to happen. And now you know why. It's like literally when the shift occurs, the other one never existed. It's gone. It's absolutely gone. The same when my, say, elevated state is gone, so to speak, when I'm not aware of that, then it never was there. It becomes a memory of like, oh yeah, that was different. It was different than this. But you have nothing to compare it with. See, but that phenomena in itself, or that fact in itself, is where there's a portal, is where you can literally shift into a different consciousness again, if you realize this. A different state of consciousness. Like that makes it really different. I hope you can hear that. It's like realizing that is so, you really become very much aware of the present moment and let go of the past, because you actually want to take a look at that and see that works. And then suddenly it's like, whoa, I don't know what that was, but I whatever that was. Here's my memory again of my gratitude for God and my connectedness to all the universe. Like suddenly I feel that in every cell of my being. I don't know where that came from. And I cannot compare it with anything either. So it's like you just stay with that. You don't have to do anything else with that. Will it change? Will it shift? Well, you're not gonna be able to say, to examine that. That's really paradoxical, isn't it? We are really getting somewhere. We're really getting into the paradox. I love it. So, but yeah, with the frog it's also fun. This is great. So, next one. Okay, so now we have kind of nice 2 exercises, which we do just by ourselves. So here's the thing. Here's one expression. Lawyers always lie. So I got a beautiful picture of a lawyer. Lawyers always lie. Well, you say, how can it be if you always lie? Well, I'm not lying this time. Like, no, not this time. Well, that's the whole problem. If this statement is true, then lawyers don't always lie. But if you are telling the truth, you are lying. Well, you go have some fun with this. It is like a koan again. Like, so great. Lawyers always lie. How can it be if you always lie? Well, not this time. Well, that's the whole problem. If this statement is the truth, then lawyers don't always lie. But if you are telling the truth, you are lying. I love it. Okay, so here's a beautiful black crow. All crows are black. All crows are black. Must mean that there are crows that are not black. There must be an alternative. Otherwise you couldn't make this expression. All crows are black. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? If all crows are black, you don't have to say that. But it means that there are crows that are not black. There must be an alternative. Okay, so there was a little bit of practice. Okay, so we're coming back to the idea of judgment. So I put up a picture of the universe in the background. Nothing is outside of you. Outside of you, there's nothing. So these are actually the words of Jesus. Nothing is outside of you. Outside of you, there's nothing. all of your apparent bodily actions, or those of anybody for that matter, can only demonstrate ideas about yourself. All of them are always already over and gone. Anything that can possibly occur is already contained within your own conceptual mind, in your own conceptual identity of mind. So what are all your judgments about yourself? A judgment about a self that has no reality. Now you say like, well, am I not real then? Well, this is the interesting thing in the paradox then. It's like, as soon as you know who you are, you know that this thing that you thought you were is not real. So I go through this pretty quick. So nothing is outside of you. Outside of you there's nothing. Okay, so one more. Two more, I think. Going back to this. I'm just going back to this. So this is based on the idea. It's like all of your apparent bodily actions, or those of anybody for that matter, can only demonstrate ideas about yourself. All of them are already gone and over. So I stop here. So the thing that I wanted to share is this. It's like this comes from Jesus' expression in Sermon on the Mount. You know, it's like he has this expression about adultery. You know, it's like, so this is interesting. So that is one expression. Jesus says, he says it different. He says in the Sermon on the Mount, or the Beatitudes, it's like he says this. It's like, even thinking about the wife, thinking about this attractive neighbor woman is already adultery. So, and then you have these expressions of why would you want to try to point out the splinter in the eye of your neighbor and forget about the beam in your own eye? This is really beautiful. So the thing is that I never really understood this really deeply, what Jesus actually meant with that. Like, is this about adultery really? Is this about not looking at anyone? Is this not about all this? You can read it like that. Of course, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but it is more like whatever is contained in your own mind as a human frame of reference, which you identify with, which you think is your world and all this, like, when you look with your eyes with these ideas, you're already judging. Like, even when you're looking, you're already judging. Literally, perception, the senses, is what judgment is already. So it's like none of that is useful to come to the truth of who you are. Like, none of that. And this is a huge paradox. If you see it as the judgments that we have made, or the judgments that we make about others, have always to do with us, because there's nothing outside of you. Nothing is outside of you. Outside of you is nothing. It's what Jesus says. Like, it has everything to do with the way that you think about yourself. That's all. You're only judging yourself. And this is what perception is. This is the way you look. You cannot not judge when you use your eyes to see what is going on. Well, that's huge. That's a huge paradox. So combining that with you're not able to perceive your own growth or anyone else's growth, because there's nobody else, but anyway, it's like you cannot perceive growth because you cannot even perceive a shift from one state into the other. So that's why you do your path, sure, but when you shift into an elevated state of consciousness, you see there was no necessity for the path. Well, it's very, very kind of mind-boggling altogether, isn't it? All of it I want to give to you. So how willing are you to forgive your brother? How much do you desire peace instead of endless strife and misery and pain? Forgiveness is your peace, for herein lies the end of separation and the dream of danger and destruction, sin and death, of madness and of murder, grief and loss. So it's like, how willing are you to give up, to use what you perceive, which is a misunderstanding, because it is connected to your ideas. It doesn't give you anything that is real. So like, how willing are you to give up your ideas about yourself, to forgive your brother, and just come into the love experience as we started this meeting with? Forgiveness is your peace, for herein lies the end of separation and the dream of danger and destruction, sin and death. So, and I put down here, swear not to die, thou holy Son of God. You made a bargain that you cannot keep, like you cannot die. Well, we come to that another time too, so I'm using this. The Son of Life is the only thing in the universe that must be one. The Son of Life is the only thing in the universe that must be one. Forgiveness will not change him, but time waits upon forgiveness, that the things of time, the things of your mind, of your frame of reference, may disappear because they have no use. The Son of God is the only thing in the universe that must be one. So this is a really incredible expression. So I stop right here. It's like the truth of who you are. The truth of who you are is all there is. There's nothing else beside. There's nothing besides that. This is all there is. So like your forgiveness of yourself, your self-forgiveness, basically, you give up that you think you know what is going on, think you know who you are, think you know what God is, think you know all these things. If you're willing to give it up and see that what is true about you will reveal itself, then you have never a question about that anymore. Like then the war against yourself is over. So this is really what is being shared here then. So that is when the paradox dissolves. So is there really a paradox, you could ask? Like, well, okay, this is your homework then. Is there really a paradox? All right. So thank you so much for taking time to be with me in this and be part of this. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions or you need a PDF of the phenomenon of man, just write an email to ebhub@gmail.com, or feel free to react and respond. I really love that in this, because it is so fundamental what we share here, and it's so clear that it can be a portal to you to what? Yeah, to a state that I cannot describe, because if I would, it wouldn't be it. And so thank you for allowing this paradox to be revealed to you. Thank you so much. See you soon. Thank you.